Oh, hey. I didn't notice you there. Wow, it's been a long time since someone's come this far. Huh? Sorry, it's a little bit hard to hear you. Hold on a moment. Hold on a sec. Alright, there we go. That's a lot better. Now, what were you saying? A story, huh? Well, I suppose I did used to be known for those. Have you ever heard of I Can Tell Time? No? Perfect. It's great, and it's crafted. I Can Tell Time, Part 1 Prison Break. This is the wonderful start to Stardock's adventure. A man born in prison, raised in prison, with the ability to tell time. What do you think? Sound interesting? Alright, then let's get started. Real quick, let me just go ahead and book, take on my add some, and perfect. Okay, cool. Everything looks good. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get started with Chapter 1 then. Chapter 1. Here we are. Chapter 1. Prison Break. Each day we wake up to glistens with a different beauty unlike any of the rest. Maybe there's something new we can reach out to. So even when we fall far enough, the next morning can always pick us back up. Or then the next. Each day on top of another, stretching out the sky of hope that plucks away at time. We keep moving forward. At the edge of a dream 7,000 days long, we find our hero looking out from the cracks of a cramped cell. The spaces within the metal bars are the only window he has ever known. Lengthy hair gave no doubt to the amount of time that was spent in that concrete prison. Sprawled out along the ground further than the naked heels of his feet, it had grown long enough so that the split ends had long since become split beginnings. There was a light ruddiness to the black and white uniform he wore. You might say this was an unkempt and unclean person, but this would disservice the once-a-week cleaning by tap water. His skin, clinging to the bone, was a paleness nearing the whites of the clothing. Although he lacked the dust of his surroundings, the young man seemed like he hadn't moved from his slouched position for the day. He might as well have blended into the cold slab of wall he was resting against. His thought at that moment was, I've been alive for 167,999 hours, 59 minutes, 58 seconds, 59 seconds. 168,000 hours. Cool, he thought. His only hobby was keeping track of time. He particularly liked reaching numbers with lots of zeros in them. Even if he didn't think about it. Even if he woke up from his daily nap, he would always know how long he had been alive for, or how long he had napped for, or perhaps how long it had been since he last spoke to his one and only friend. Stardock, a voice called out. You're a couple months past 19 now, aren't you? The voice asked, calling out from beyond the cell wall. Yeah, Stardock replied, craning his neck left slightly. Well then, that would make my sentence time about over and done. It would, wouldn't it? I'm going to go ahead and let myself out now. And with the ferocity of 1,000 wild tigers, the man who went by the name Pancho tore apart the very jail cell he had been in for the last 10 years. However, this was no ordinary tearing apart. The man that was now standing outside of his old cage had no arms from which to have grasped the bars that now lay strewn about the floor beneath him. A kinetic fever lived on in his sleeves. They flapped and waved through the air and dust that had yet to settle. You want me to break you out? Pancho asked as he stepped into view of Stardock, partially obscured by the yet untorn iron bars. Yes, please. I'm sorry I couldn't do anything about it sooner. It's okay. I understand, Stardock replied, smiling. Pancho nodded and then began to twist his torso. An instant later he unleashed an array of slashes with only the fabric of his shirt, each doled out with a perfect finesse guided by a brawny core and sinewy shoulders. The bars of Stardock's cell were like butter to those cotton knives. The thin figure of Stardock stood up and shambled into the center of the room. This was the most exciting moment of his life. Although his atrophied body ached, there was a glint of life in his eyes as he thought to himself that this would be where his life truly begins. Even being able to look down the halls of the prison was a privilege to him, for the guards had always beaten down anyone in the range of their guard sticks, outside the bars or not. Now fully outside their cells, Stardock and Pancho faced each other. For the first time, a physical appearance was now assigned what would have prior been conversations with disembodied voices. "Thank you, Pancho." "Of course." Stardock's eyes fell to the ground where his feet easily managed to find themselves standing on a mess of his own hair. "I think I need a haircut." "Alright, just know that I only do one style of haircut, and you better like it." Pancho tried to lift his hat as he said this, but with no means to do so, he ended up just tilting his head forward in gesticulation at his own mess of hair. At that point, Stardock was thinking that its gold sheen fit well with the pattern that wrapped around Pancho's hat. Red and white stripes with a blue square somewhere off to the left with a multitude of stars sitting inside of it. "That's fine. I think I can appreciate any kind of haircut at this point." Pancho's voice echoed throughout the entire corridor. It should be noted that this had been one of his stronger techniques, as he did not require a shout before when breaking through the 2 previous jail cells. With each lash, hair blasted off from behind Stardock. In only a few strokes, his hair had been reduced to neck length, falling elegantly around his ears and alongside his face. Just as the Japanese women would cut their hair to signify a rebirth of the self, so too was Stardock's life now reborn. "I like it," Stardock said as he observed his haircut. There were no mirrors present, so he was instead relying upon the reflection of himself in Pancho's eyes. Unlike my hair, it actually falls straight. I think it looks good on you." Pancho turned to look down the end of the hall they stood in. A solid gray wall blocked a path about 50 feet down. On the opposite side, the hallway lined with metal bars extended far into an unseeable distance. "Alright, Stardock. I think it's about time we get this show on the road. We're free men now, but it'll be a long time yet before we reach the surface." "Right." Stardock strained his eyes to see further down the hallway. "Pacific Standard Time, it should be 6:23 in the morning up there." And with his eyes fixed on the ceiling, "That's almost time for sunrise, right, Pancho?" "Yeah, the good old blazing sun. If we were standing on the soil far above our heads, it wouldn't be more than half an hour before we could watch the sunrise, I think." Talk, tack, thought, tack. These steps were the duo's first together on their journey. It all began here in these cold halls where no one but them seemed to exist. All the cells they passed were vacant, some destroyed and in shambles, while others were left open with a few forgotten items laying about. Over Stardock's shoulder fell a bag that was filled with food and drink left over from his cell. Pancho took only the clothes he had been wearing with him, as the diet he practiced was one that would satiate him almost anywhere. In fact, while Stardock had survived this long on food from his 10th anniversary commissary refrigerator, Pancho had been eating rocks. Stardock had asked once why he did not eat regular food. Pancho just replied that it was part of his punishment, one he had come up with on his own and dealt out to himself. This was of his character at the time, though, Stardock had thought. And he still thought this now, as the man who had been eating nothing but rocks the last 10 years was the embodiment of a rock himself. Large, bound with muscle, and just like a rock, he had no arms. Like a cape, the sleeves of his shirt drifted and billowed lightly behind him. End of Chapter 1.